All right, so welcome. Today we are going to start on our backs. So go ahead and lay down on your back. Take any shape you'd like to begin. We're just gonna do a little centering to begin. I'm gonna stay upright just so you can hear me, and then I'll join you when we start our poses. So gonna allow your eyes closed. Take any shape. And start to bring yourself into the room, onto your mat, and into your body. Take a full inhale here. And sigh out the mouth. Start to notice your surroundings, taking in the things that might become a distraction, and invite them to be part of your practice today. Taking in those things that feel a little bit more comforting to your practice, and send them a little gratitude for being there. Take a full inhale here. And let it go. Start to scan over the body today, checking in. We're going to focus on different movements of the spine, rotation, lateral flexion, extension, and flexion. So moving through those different areas of the body, check in with that spine, check in with the core of your body, all the way from the base of your head, down to your tailbone, and into the hips, the knees, and the ankles. Just take inventory with how your body feels. Applying no judgment or criticism to it, just acknowledging those areas that might be talking to you a little bit more than others. Areas that might feel a little bit more tired or fatigued than others. Imagine yourself sending some loving kindness to these areas in your body, acknowledging them mentally and physically in your body. Taking a full inhale here. And let it go. Start to check in mentally, acknowledging the day, acknowledging any thoughts or emotions that are bouncing around in your head. And again, giving those some loving kindness. Give some validity to those emotions, to those thoughts. But then see if you can allow them to drift away, as if they're clouds on a breezy day. Just placing each of those thoughts on a cloud and letting them drift away outside the four walls you're in. They will keep coming back, but then give them some loving kindness and send them on their way. Just remind yourself to pay attention to your body and your breath while you're here on your mat today. Taking a big inhale here. And let it go. Just start to tune into that present moment. Hopefully, a little centering has brought you more into the present. And anytime you get distracted, think of it as an opportunity to start anew. Bring yourself back to the present with loving kindness. And being here in your body with your breath. Noticing the sensations in the body in this yin practice. Being curious about what's happening. Just for a minute of silence here, be curious at the sensations at the tip of your nose. Just really drawing yourself into the present with your breath. And taking a nice full inhale here. And letting it go. Coming in with your knees bent. And then bring your feet apart the distance of your mat. Bring your arms out like cactus arms. And start to windshield wiper those legs from side to side. Just bringing in some movement. Just checking in with those areas. Before we begin into our first pose. Our first pose is going to be Banana Asana. So working on that lateral and lateral flexion and extension of the spine and side waist. So come back to neutral, extend the legs out. And for this, you might want to have something, maybe a blanket or something heavy to kind of just place on your hips. Sometimes that feels good to have that on your hips. I know it does for me. You can always take it off if it doesn't. And then from here, you're going to take your legs and you're going to move your legs over to the left. So just move over to the left till you feel a stretch in your right hip. And then just pause there. And you might want to create more weight, so maybe that blanket comes more on that right side. And then start to take those arms up overhead. Arms can be straight or bent, maybe grabbing opposite elbows if that feels okay, or opposite forearms. And then start to lean toward the left. So start to move your upper body toward the left. So both your feet and your upper body are toward the left. You're creating this banana shape with your body. So just check in here. So coming to that first edge, checking in. And then if you'd like to go deeper, maybe taking that left ankle and crossing it over the right foot. That gives you a little bit more grounding of that right side. But if you feel like you have maybe a little bit further toward your edge, maybe you take the right ankle and cross it over your left foot. Sometimes this causes that right hip to lift or a little pinching in the low back. So be mindful to relax that area if you can, or just unwind those legs and recross it the other way. Just noticing those sensations that are happening in the right side of your body. Through the hip, maybe down to the knee. From the hip, maybe up to the armpit, into the shoulder. If you're feeling any pinching sensation or tingling sensation in the arms, adjust the arms so you're not pinching that nerve that runs from the neck down into the fingers, the brachial nerve. And just start to tune back in and notice those sensations, or even tune into your breath. Being curious about the sensations that are happening. Resisting the urge to fidget. And just dropping into the body here. We'll be here for another 3 minutes. And it's easy to find the mind wandering. If it does start to wander, again, give those thoughts some loving kindness. Bring that mind back to the present, being curious about the sensations. Being curious about how the breath affects the pose. And really feel your body in this pose. About another minute here. Just noticing if your edge has dissipated a little. If you can find a little edge, maybe even noticing a little bit more of that left side of your body. Notice what's happening in that side that is flexing rather than extending and opening up on that right side. But just notice the left side sensations for a moment. And taking a full inhale here. And let it go. Slowly start to bring your upper body back to center. And then unwind the legs if you've crossed the ankles and bring those legs back to neutral. Hands down by your side. Pause there for a moment. Just notice those sensations in the left and right side. Acknowledging which side is talking to you a little bit more. And then either staying here just to absorb the rebound of the pose, or if you feel like you need to do any gentle movements like rocking of the legs, windshield wipering those legs again, whatever would feel best to you. Go ahead and take time to do that now. And then start to lengthen those legs back out again. I'm going to switch to the second side. So taking those legs, move them over to the right to begin. And just pause there. Notice that sensation in the outer left hip. And then start to take those arms, reach them up back overhead. Maybe interlink opposite hands and elbows or opposite forearms and hands. And then start to lean the upper body over to the right until you feel that edge. And just pause there and notice those sensations. You might notice that you feel this side a little sooner, and that has a lot to do with it. We were flexing that side on the previous pose that we did for the right side, opening it up. So it'll take a little bit of time maybe for this edge to dissipate, to go a little further. But when you feel you're ready, you can take either your right ankle and cross it over your left ankle, or you can even go left ankle over the right. Just notice how that feels. Making sure it is not a sharp stabbing pain, that you're feeling a sensation, you're feeling some compression or some stretch. And then be curious about those sensations. Settle in here for some stillness. Settle in for the time. Again, be mindful of any tingling or numbing. That's not the sensation we want to go for. That means that we're impinging or we're blocking a nerve. We don't want that to happen, or we're blocking blood flow. We actually want to create more blood flow in the body with these poses. So adjust ever so slightly if that's happening. And then again, becoming curious about the sensations happening in the body. Just tapping in. If the mind has taken over and wandered you away, tap back into the breath, back into the sensations of the body. About 2 more minutes here. Taking a full inhale here. And sigh it out. Ever so slowly start to bring that upper body back to center. And uncrossing those legs, bring the legs back to center. Bring those arms down by the side. Just pausing there. Acknowledging those sensations in the left side, the right side. Making any movements that you feel you need, or stay with the stillness, observing the sensations in the body. Whatever's going to feel best to you right now. Take a few more cycles of breath wherever you are. And then we are going to transition to our bellies into Sphinx pose. So have any props handy that you might need for this Mindfully roll yourself over onto your belly. And coming into Sphinx pose, you have different options here. So your elbows can be slightly forward and spread out a little bit while your legs extend. If you find this is a little still too much in your upper back or low back, you can make your elbows wider and maybe even turn your head to one side. Sometimes just laying on your belly is a little bit of a stressor on the back. What I like to do is I like to have a rolled up blanket or a bolster, and I like to slide that underneath my chest down to the lower part of my sternum. And so it gives me just a little bit of support so I don't have to hold myself up so much. I'm laying over that. And then I bring my elbows kind of a little bit more under my shoulders but wider, and then lengthen my legs out. And as I lengthen my legs out, I let my heels roll out so my legs are relaxed. And then I need to usually squeeze and relax my glutes. So it reminds them not to work here. And then take a deep inhale. And as you sigh it out, drop in. Couple options with your neck. You can keep it up. If it feels okay, you can drop it down, chin toward your chest. If that's too much pulling on your back, if you have a bolster or a block, you can allow your head to rest on that, so the forehead, so that it feels a little bit more support. So the target area is the spine, the low back. You could feel some sensations in the shoulders, depending on how much pressure is being placed into the elbows, how much weight is there. There might be a little bit into the elbows, but primarily finding a little bit of extension of the spine. Primarily the low back. Just start to drop in here. There will be an option to go to seal pose in about another minute. Enjoying this edge for a moment. You always have the other option of taking your legs and bending them. So your knees would be a little bit wider. You bend your knees and let the soles of your feet drop together. So that's going to intensify that compression of the low back, that intensity of your edge. But be mindful you're not going past your edge. It's a place where your breath is still full. You're observing the sensations. Feeling free to stay here if this is your edge, but if you'd like to go a little bit deeper, you have a little bit more, you can come into that seal pose, which is going to require you to bring your hands slightly wider and forward. And then you're going to press into those hands to straighten the arms. So those shoulders are now going to drop forward a little bit. Maybe the head rounds forward, maybe it stays lifted. And then you can press into those hands. You can even walk them in more if you need a little bit more edge. If you find that it's too much, coming out of it, nice and slow, coming back to where you can find your edge. Taking a nice deep inhale here. Exhale, slowly coming out of seal pose if you're there. And then lifting the head, extending the legs if they've bent. And then sliding anything out from underneath you if it's there. Laying yourself down onto your belly. Maybe even resting your head on your hands. Turning your head to your right side and take that right knee, draw it out to the side, bending the knee. And pausing there in a little counter pose. Letting the back relax a little. Letting the shoulders relax. Couple more rounds of breath here. And slowly start to bring that right knee in. Switch your head, look to the left, and bring that left knee out to the side. Pausing there for a few breaths. And slowly bring yourself back to center. Bring your head back to center. Slide your hands by your side. Press yourself back up onto your hands and knees. And pause there. Notice if you need to do maybe a cat-cow to stretch that out. We're going to come into child's pose, so you can go directly there. We're going to be in child's pose for about 3 minutes. So if you need any props, maybe you need a block under your hips to sit up a little bit to begin. Maybe you need something lengthening out in front of your chest to lay on. Whatever's going to best support you. Go ahead and when you're ready, transition into child's pose. And your arms can be reaching forward if that feels good, if that's a good edge for your shoulders. Your arms can come out like cactus arms, if that's going to feel better for your shoulders, and you're going to target the hips more. Or if you want to even target the hips more, arms can go back by your feet and let those arms round forward on the tops of the knees. Making sure that you are comfortable wherever you are in your knees. Make sure there's no pain. If there's too much sensation there, prop yourself up on a bolster or a block. If that's still going to be too much, you can go into happy baby on your back. So settling in here, checking in with your breath. Maybe you can notice the sensations of the back side of your body. That spine, finding a little flexion of the, flexion of the spine. So we worked on extension, now flexing the spine ever so slightly, rounding into the upper back. Noticing sensations in the hips, the knees, the ankles. About 1 more minute here. Taking a full inhale here. And let it go. Mindfully start to press yourself up to your hands and knees. And we're going to transition to a seated position. It's going to come down to seated, using any props you need to sit down. Just pause there. We're going to come into long-legged butterfly. So you might need some props under your hips, depending on if it bothers your knees or underneath your thighs. So instead of we have Baddha Konasana with our legs closed, we're going to lengthen those legs out to where we feel a little bit of stress on the outside edge of our knee. It might be that you need some props under your ankles, depending on what you're on the floor. And just having that space there, lengthening it out. You might want to have a bolster, a blanket, something in between your legs so you can round forward over that. Today I'm going to take a blanket, a towel, and roll it up and roll it into and place it into my hip crease so I can kind of roll over that a little bit as I round forward just to get a little deeper sensation into the hips for me. So that's another action. So again, depending on how much, so again, we're going into that rounding of the spine, that flexion of the spine a little deeper, but then we're also targeting the ankles, the knees, the hips. Hands can stay back for less sensation. Hands can come rest on your legs if that's okay. If it's too much sensation into the knees, take that block or pillow and place it underneath the thighs so it gives it a little bit of support to lessen the edge. And just start to round forward. If it's okay, maybe head drops down to the chest, maybe the head drops down onto something. And just start to settle in here. Dropping in. Once you've kind of found your edge, take a deep inhale. And let it go. Start to settle in. Settling into stillness. Noticing the sensations in the body. And as this is a rounding into yourself or turning inward type of pose, your mind might wander away. See if you can keep it on the sensations of the body, noticing your edge. And knowing when to deepen and knowing when that sensation becomes too intense and knowing when to back out a little. Settling in a little bit deeper if you can. About 1 more minute here. Taking a full inhale here. And let it go. Slowly start to make your way up to seated. Maybe even taking a couple breaths to do so. Noticing those sensations as you unfold. And then helping those legs, bringing them up, extending them out. Pausing there for a moment. Just notice those sensations in the knees, the hips, the spine. Noticing the breath. And either continue to stay here in stillness, noticing the rebound of the pose, or start to bring some little movements maybe into the ankles, pointing and flexing through the feet. Maybe circles or rocking those legs from side to side. Maybe even leaning back into your hands and opening the chest with a little counter pose to all that rounding. And then taking your time, we're going to make our way into shoelace pose. To work into a little bit more of the spine, some flexion of the lateral flexion, extension of the spine, as well as into the hips. So finding a seat, you're going to take your right leg on top first. So your right leg will be up on top first. If you can, that left leg will bend back behind you. or not behind you, that would be too far, by your side. And then pause there. Just kind of notice, I like to sit up on something for this. It just kind of helps get my hips up higher, give me more space so I can ground down. And then just notice you might need some prop under your top knee. You might need some prop under your bottom knee because it's too much for the knee. Maybe you need something under the ankles. And just settle in there, pause. So we're going to hold here. We're going to go a little bit deeper, a little bit into different sensations, into the upper body, into the spine, the neck, and the shoulders. Just notice the sensations that are happening in the legs right now. And just notice as you sit here, it might become a little bit more intense, so you might need to adjust as you're sitting here. A couple more cycles of breath here, settling into the sensations of the legs. And slowly we're going to start to add in a twist. So starting to twist toward the right. So your right hand's going to come either by your side or behind you, and maybe just start with that left hand draping over the top knee. Rolling the shoulders back a little bit. If it feels okay, maybe that arm comes a little bit more over the leg, finding a little deeper twist for that edge. And just pause there. You can take the edge into the neck as well as twisting the head back if you'd like. Or you can even start to drop that head down toward the chest, getting into the back of the neck. So whatever's going to feel best to you here. Being curious about those sensations, those new sensations of the upper body, but also still being cognizant of those sensations in the legs. Slowly start to bring yourself back to center. Pausing there for a moment, just notice the rebound of that twist. Noticing the sensations in the legs. And then starting to take that right hand out to your side. Start to walk that hand over, so going into a little bit of flexion and extension of the spine. Just walking that leg or that hand over. And then this left hand, it can stay on your hip. It can reach up and come over the top of the head, so really work on that extension of the left side. You can even prop yourself up on a pillow or a bolster for your bottom elbow, so that your elbow is grounded and can stack your shoulder. If it's too much for that arm overhead and you don't want to go there, maybe you bring that hand back behind you and place the back of your hand along your low back or your hip. So you have a few options with what you want to play with your upper body, as far as what edge you want to go to and how your body's feeling. So again, primary focus are the hips and the knees. We're getting into some flexion on the right side of the spine, some extension on the left side of the spine. Getting into some sensations in the shoulder and elbow. And if you'd like to add in the neck, you can. You can either drop your right ear toward your right shoulder, so opening up that whole left side of the neck. And then you can start to play with the edge as far as when it comes to maybe you want to work more toward the back of the neck, letting that head Kind of drop down toward the floor, your chin draws toward your chest a little bit or toward the bottom shoulder. Maybe there's a sensation that goes all the way from maybe the base of your neck down across the shoulder, and maybe even down into the elbow of that left arm if that hand is behind your back. This is really one of my new favorite poses. I just like all these sensations that are happening now in my body. They feel good. Slowly start to bring your head back to neutral. And then taking out that left hand or bringing that left hand back down by your side. And then start to press yourself up to seated. Pausing there. And from here you have options. You can stay upright or you can start to lengthen forward. Again, if you want to get more into the rounding or the flexion of the spine again, I like to take a pillow or a bolster and place it right up into my hips, right into my belly, and let myself round over that. That's going to help the low back kind of expand a little bit more, find some extension. And start to lengthen forward. So it's extension of the low back, but flexion of the upper back, so rounding forward. And then your head can rest on your knees, maybe on your hands, maybe on a bolster in front of you. Again, start to settle in here. Taking a full inhale here. And let it go. Slowly start to bring yourself back up to center. Pausing there. And then slowly start to unwind, taking that top leg, drawing it in. And bring it out just to bent knee to begin. If the bottom knee is also bent, go ahead and bring that out. And just pause there, sitting up tall. Notice the rebound of the pose. Notice those sensations in the legs. And maybe start to straighten those legs out. Letting the legs, letting those knees absorb that energy. And then taking again any movements that you might need to, maybe leaning back, maybe windshield wipers, maybe just rocking the legs from side to side. Or maybe the stillness feels the best. So again, it's all what feels best to you. I'm just giving you options, guiding you through your practice. Take whatever path leads you on your best journey today. And then we'll switch sides. So that left leg's going to be on top now. And again, you might notice the side's a little bit more tight. Maybe you need some prop underneath the knee. Maybe you stay here. Or that right leg can bend back toward the hip. And again, Adjusting, noticing how this side feels, and knowing both sides are different. You might have a little bit different edge here on this side compared to the other side. But be mindful of that, and using whatever you need to be comfortable on this side. And just start to settle in here. I usually like to, once I found my edge, I usually take a deep breath in and let it go. Just to let myself drop in to the pose, drop into the body, let myself really feel those sensations that are happening in the hips, the ankles, and the knees. I like to remind myself if my mind wanders with a deep breath. So now you know if I ever have deep breaths and you notice, it's probably because my mind has wandered. I need to bring it back to the present. I find those deep breaths help. And we're going to slowly start to make our way into a twist, taking that left hand, bringing it behind you, and maybe just draping the right arm over that top knee to begin. Just notice how that feels if that's your edge, or taking it all the way over on the opposite side of that thigh. And again, you have those different options with your neck. You can continue to look back. You can look straight ahead, or you can start to drop that chin towards the chest. Just notice if you're trying too hard to find a twist rather than letting the body twist to that position and then hold. It's a natural tendency, especially in this type of a twist, because we're used to doing this in the more active yoga classes. See if you could just be in a twist of where your body can go to its own edge without forcing. Slowly bring your head back to neutral if it's not there. And then slowly bring your way out of that twist. Pause there for a moment. And coming into that side stretch. So lengthening that left arm out. And then pausing there. Just noticing that sensation. And again, you have the option with this right hand that can stay on your hip, just resting down. It can come all the way up and over the top ear. If that's going to feel good to work on a little bit more of that extension of the right side, if that feels where you want to take your edge today. Or you can take the hand and bring it down back behind the low back and let it rest there. Let the shoulder relax forward. Just finding your edge there. What's going to feel best to you today. Then you can start to add in the neck if you'd like. First option is to draw that left ear toward the left shoulder. The next option is to start to draw that chin maybe toward the left shoulder. So depending on where you're tightest in your neck, just see if you can let go of any muscle energy, any holding there. Let yourself just drop in. Slowly start to bring the head back to neutral. Slowly bring that left hand by your side, or sorry, right arm by your side. And then slowly start to press yourself up with the left arm to come up to seated and pause. Let the effects of that pose wash through you. Notice those sensations. And then either you can stay upright if this is feeling good to you, or you can take it a little bit deeper, folding forward over those legs, letting yourself round forward. Be mindful of the knees. This can be a little bit more weight in the knees, letting your head just drop down or resting it on something. And then just settle in here. And taking a full inhale here. And let it go. Slowly start to bring yourself all the way back up. And then ever so slowly starting to take that top leg, draw it up, helping it so slowly. And then the bottom leg, if it's bent, pause there for a moment, just with the knees bent, taking your time, no rush. And then taking those legs out in front of you, pausing there. And then taking any movements that are going to feel natural to you. Anything that's going to feel good in your body before we head to the floor for Shavasana. As you start to feel comfortable and ready to transition yourself to the floor. Bring anything along the way that's going to help support you as you make your way to the floor. Maybe you have some props under your head, something to cover your eyes. Whatever's going to help you rest more comfortably. Allow yourself to settle in on your back. Taking the form that's going to best suit you here. Maybe taking a moment to stretch through your limbs, your arms, your legs. Maybe take a couple cleansing breaths. You have something to maybe drape over your body, especially over those hips and pelvis, maybe even the abdominals. That sometimes helps ground you a little bit more into the space. If you can cover your whole body, that helps even more. Covering the eyes helps drop you in, keeps you from wandering away. Just really allowing yourself to go into your body here. And take a full inhale once you've found your comfortable space. And let it go. Allow yourself to really drop into the space. Drop into your body, into the sensations of the body. Allowing yourself to be here with your body, with your breath in the present moment for a few more minutes in silence. I'll bring us out of Shavasana with 3 bells. Or if you'd rather just let this play out and finish on your own, taking as long as you need to restore. We'll see you next time. Take rest. If this is feeling good, please stay here. No need to rush out. Stay as long as you need to restore. If you're ready to come out, start to deepen your breath. Start to bring some movement into the fingers and toes, maybe even the wrists and ankles. Maybe start to reach the arms back behind the head. Slide the feet together, give yourself a long stretch. And then slowly bend those knees. Coming back to where we started, doing a couple windshield wipers from side to side. Bring that circulation back to the body. And just kind of check in with your body, check in with your energy level. Acknowledge what lies in store for you after the practice. If you feel like you can continue on with this mellow vibe that you have, you're going to roll over to your right side, so your left nostril is on top. If you feel like you need a little bit more energy to get through the rest of what you have planned after practice, roll over to your left side, so your right side is on top. And then once you're there, just pause, take a moment, scan over the body, check in mentally and physically, acknowledging those shifts from the practice. And then when you're ready, mindfully pressing yourself up. Come all the way back up to seated. Pausing there for a moment. Your eyes have opened, allow them to close. Resting your hands on your thighs for a moment. Allowing yourself to come into the room, onto your mat, and into your body. Acknowledging that you made it to your mat today. Acknowledging that you gave yourself some kindness, some love. And allow yourself to continue to acknowledge the benefits of the practice. The awareness, the breath. And take that with you as you transition off your mat. We'll take a moment here and we'll close our practice just with one more cleansing breath. Take a nice full inhale here. And let it go. Bowing your head for a moment. Thinking of one thing in your life that you truly are grateful for. And hold on to that image in your mind's eye as you raise your head with a smile. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking care of yourself today. Drink lots of water, eat your veggies, and wear some sunblock. We'll see you next time. Namaste.